Hey guys, it's John. I am recording another Blindfold video. There was some interest in me doing that, so I've decided to give it another go. This time I'm playing Computer3-HARD. I set my sights a little lower than Computer 4 Impossible in this one. So hopefully this goes a little bit better. We'll see. So we've got like a exchange Slav where he has played an early G3. Generally that's not a good idea for white. It doesn't combine well with the exchange Slav setup that white usually adopts. But we shall see. You just never know. So he developed his bishop to f4. He has a normal setup except for the g3 move. Let's see. I think e6 is fine. Let's do that. I was just checking to make sure like queen b3 was not a problem, since it would attack my pawn on b7. Okay, knight h4. I think I'm going to throw in bishop e4, attacking his rook on h1. He took it. So I could try to take with my pawn because that would cut off his knight's retreat to f3, but I'm going to keep it simple and just take with the knight. Now I have a couple ideas. Yeah, I kind of had two threats there. One was bishop b4 check, and the other, which I think I can still play, is g5. See, if I play g5, he can play f3 is the only thing. But that should work out well for me. Yeah, I think that should be good. So g5, forking the bishop and the knight. And I think he has to play f3. Yep, the engine did. So now, unfortunately, I can't retreat my knight to a square that would still keep my pawn on g5 defended and still fork his two pieces. I don't have that available. Like if I go to f6, he can take on g5. And if I go to d6, he can take my knight. So I think I'm going to take on f4. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Then when he takes my knight, I think I'm just going to recapture. Just calmly recapture. I could take on g3 too, but I think recapturing is just better. Let's do that. He played bishop g2. Really want to get at that knight on h4. So now I've got pawns on f4 and e4. I can take on g3 if I want. Yeah, I don't see why not. Let's do that. And then his knight's under attack, so he'll recapture. Now my pawn on e4 is hanging, but g3 is incredibly weak. And I think I can just attack it with bishop d6. I think that would be totally fine. Either that or queen g5. I can go to g5 with the queen. Somehow bishop d6 seems correct. Yeah, let's do that one. I think that's a better way just to hit that pawn. And he played rook h3, okay. So now I could take, couldn't I? If I take, the engine has to take with the rook, and then I can take on h4. And the rook will be pinned to the king. I hope I'm not missing anything with that. I don't think I am. Because his f-pawn is gone. He played f3 and then f takes e4. His h-pawn used to be here, but now when I captured on g3, it's there. So I believe all that checks out. Also, the g file's open. So I can play even like rook g8 if I need to. But I think that's just winning material for me. And now take here. How can he defend it? Queen to b3, yeah. He can do that. Now maybe is a good time for this rook g8 move. Let's see. g8, yeah, I like the look of it. I'm gonna go for it. He took on e4. That must be bad. I mean, I can just take and I'm up a rook, right? It's pretty simple. I could take with a rook too and try for even more, but my pawn on b7 is hanging. Yeah, rook takes, queen takes b7. Although I could play rook b3 check then, couldn't I? And then pick up the queen. Because rook takes goes right into the line of fire against his king. This is kind of a funny situation, because I think queen takes g3 just wins me the game, more or less, but rook takes g3 is even greedier and better, if I'm seeing everything properly. Like, where could his queen go, then? Because I still have my knight on c6, so he can't go like queen b5 or queen a4 check. Okay, I'm gonna trust my instincts. He took with check on c6, okay. So I just recapture. Now what? Where are you going to go with your queen? Okay, he sacked his queen. Nice for me. Yeah, it's looking pretty bad for the engine. Little engine that could. King d2. So I'm up a lot of material now. A lot of material. Yeah, he doesn't have much left, actually. He still has his pawn on d4. But does he really only have his king and his rook as far as his pieces, and then some pawns? Does he have any minor pieces left? I took his knight that was on h4. I took his bishop that was on f4. He traded his light square bishop for my knight on c6. His queenside knight took my bishop on e4. I got his queen and I got his kingside rook. So he really just has his queenside rook left. And I have rook and queen. Can't believe I have that much material compared to him. I don't have any minors, right? My kingside knight perished. My dark square bishop perished. My light square bishop was traded on e4. And he took my knight. So I just have rook on a8, queen on g3. And I think I know where all the pawns are. Yeah, so let's just go rook d8. I mean, I had the time, I just to go think back through all that. Even though black is winning easily, figure why not just retrace my steps and make sure I'm not missing anything. Because sometimes I found in blindfold endgames it does get a little tricky just remembering where everything was, like a piece that moved 20 moves ago or so. You want to know where it is still in the endgame so you don't like hang your queen for a pawn. So he's defending his pawn on d4. I guess I could just give him a check. It's probably pretty bad for him. I think I also just like, you know, pushing c5 and ganging up on his d4 pawn. He brought his rook in. It's fine. Let's just take on d4. He pushed e4. Let's just attack his b pawn. He played b4. Okay, I think I can go queen c3 check now. Yeah, there's nothing stopping me from doing that. He ran with his king. Yeah, let's go d3 check. Go d2 check. Force king f1. Now I want to get my rook in the game quickly. Does he have a pawn on a2 or a3? If he, yeah, the pawn's on a3. It is, because way back when he tried to stop bishop b4. So I can't play rook takes b4. I was just wondering that the last couple moves whether I could take his b pawn. I think the fastest way to do this is just move my king. And now I plan to bring this rook over to g8. There's not much he's going to be able to do about mate soon. So bring the rook back over to the open file. He went to rook e4. Yeah, this is going to be mate in a couple. Let's just bring this rook in. Now I think I just have mate, queen f2. Yep, checkmate. Cool. Hey, I even gained some rating points. All right. That was fun and successful for me. Let's go back, and I'm going to change my settings back to just normal. So go to account, update live chess settings. This is how you do blindfold for those who don't know. It's in your live chess settings, and then you can change it back like I always do classic when I actually have the pieces going. So save, and now I should be able to go to my archive. This is nifty that chess.com has all these features. And find this game. Let's view it. And there'll be an option for Analyze and Live. So right here, Analyze and Live. Okay. So let's just look at it from my perspective since I was black. As I've said in previous blindfold videos, I think it makes sense to stick with openings that you know when you're trying blindfold, because I've found that when people get into trouble in blindfold, it's often because they wind up in some opening that they're not familiar with, and that leads to a middle game they're not familiar with, and then it's just a domino effect from there. So especially if you're first starting out in blindfold, just play something that you know, your strongest line, ideally. So he played g3, and I was saying this setup doesn't really jive well with black playing this Slav defense, because already I'm establishing pawns on the diagonal, so it's going to blunt his bishop. Also, the philosophy of c4, the queen's gambit, doesn't fit especially well with a kingside fianchetto often. There's some openings like the Catalan where that does work, but the Catalan is usually more effective. Well, the Catalan is against the pawn on e6. So the pawn on c6 makes it much more likely that black can hold it. Like, for one thing, if I took this pawn right now, he would have to work reasonably hard to get that pawn back, because I can support it very quickly with b5. Compared to, say, I had my pawn on e6 and this pawn is back on c7, as in the queen's gambit declined or something, then queen a4 check might be an easier possibility. But as it stands here, I'm ready to support this pawn at a moment's notice. I didn't take it, though. I just played knight f6, just developing. He took, I took. We made some standard developing moves. Yeah, so this is an exchange Slav position, except he's traded the move g3 for the more conventional exchange Slav move, bishop f4. And considering he played bishop f4 on the next move, I think it's pretty clear that the g3 move doesn't help white too much in this position. Knight h4. I don't know if this is such a great idea for him. The engine should just probably develop its light square bishop and try to castle. And I found that bishop e4, when the knight comes over to h4, if bishop e4 is possible, it's an annoying move for them to deal with. So knight takes, I took with the knight, because now, as I was saying, there's these two threats, right? There's check here, which would be embarrassing for his king, and there's also g5. And I didn't think about this during the game, but if he plays, let's say he plays knight back to f3, trying to cover both threats, well, sometimes black can go g5, then let's say bishop here, and then, I guess it doesn't quite work in this position, but my idea was to play this and try to drive the knight back, and then go bishop b4, but it looks like he can do that. So that maybe dashes those dreams. So it's possible that knight f3 was just the best move for the engine right here. I mean, there might be some lines, like maybe one simple line is like I can just play to win the d4 pawn. Let's say he blocks now. Maybe just take. Looks very good for black. And if he gives a check here, I guess I could even play b5 in that case, because I was about to say I should play knight c6, but b5 is even fine, because take, I have knight c2, royal fork. So, yeah, he's already in some pretty big trouble at this point. And Engine played a3, covering the b4 square. And I went g5. Went f3. I think that's the only move. Otherwise, he just straight up loses a piece. And as I was saying, this knight doesn't have like a convenient retreat square that would keep the fork threat alive. Because if I go to f6, he can just grab on g5 now. My queen is blocked from taking the bishop. And if knight d6, then he can trade, which is also very good for black. Like one line that comes to mind that looks pretty darn good is this, knight g2 and then queen b6. Problem with these pawns. But I think the game continuation is even stronger. Take on f4. He takes. I just took here. Went bishop g2. I take on g3. And then bishop d6. And that g3 pawn is a huge liability for white. Huge liability. In fact, I don't think they can really defend at this point, now that I look at it. One thing I thought they would do is king f2, but I guess king f2 I can even just play. There's probably several things that are good, but just maybe check is the easiest. Force the king away and then take the pawn on g3, and his position's rapidly collapsing. So the engine defended with rook h3, but then I took. The key factor in this was the pin, but also when it dawned on me that, hey, I've got the g file open actually because I went for that g5 takes on f4 thing, that really was the final straw, and I think this combination has to be good for black based on all of this. This would be nice by itself, even if there was a pawn on g7, but the rook coming to g8 too, in conjunction with that, is too much for him. Still though, after queen b3, rook g8, I'm pretty surprised the engine didn't play king f2. Although again, king f2 is just met by queen f4, so it probably saw that that was hopeless. Yeah, so that's also losing for the computer. So he took on e4. This is just sort of a deflection move. I guess they're hoping I take with the queen so that rook takes g8, check. It's kind of funny, like I'm talking like this computer program, this non-thinking program, as if it's a human. I'm saying like, the computer saw this, or the computer was hoping that. But of course, as you guys know, in reality, computers don't hope or see anything. They just crunch numbers and spit out the move that they think they should play based on the algorithm. But, you know, humans always try to assign emotions to computers. Not just in chess, just, you know, that's why they're trying to design lifelike robots and such. It's hard to think of something as just a cold, emotionless computer spitting out algorithm that somehow plays like amazing chess moves. So rook g8, yeah, and it took on e4. This was just interesting just for like from a conversion standpoint, because at first I was a little skeptical to play rook takes g3 because I wasn't quite sure that it was better than queen takes g3. I saw that queen takes g3 would just win the rook and trade the queens, and I'd be up a rook in the endgame. But rook takes g3, turns out it's even better because his queen doesn't have anywhere it can go that I can't win it with a discovered check on the next move. Like, literally every square it can go to, I have some discovered check available that will win it. Even a2 if it tries to cower in the corner. Something like that. So, rook takes g3 is objectively the stronger move. And even in a blindfold game, I would have felt bad about backing down from that, even though queen takes g3 is winning as well. And that's why we're playing these games. You know, I'm trying to practice my calculation and visualization. So even something as innocuous as this situation, basically which way to play for a win, I think it's kind of instructive, and this helps me gain confidence in my over-the-board calculating skills, I know. So yeah, rook takes g3, and he's sliding rapidly downhill. Took a check, I just took back. It's helpful that he can't check me. So yeah, he ended up taking, and then here. I think at this point, I was just doing a count of the remaining pieces because it had seemed like all the pieces came off the board. I mean, it's only moved 21, and you know, all of his pieces are almost wiped out. So I just went through and I tracked all the minor pieces and kind of replayed them in my head where they got exchanged, just to confirm that I knew what was going on. And once I remembered that all the minor pieces were gone, his kingside rook and his queen were gone, all my minor pieces plus my kingside rook was gone, then I realized, okay, I'm just up a queen. I knew I was up a lot, but I didn't realize it was just straight up a queen at this point. And it was just a matter of winning this position, not too difficult. Sometimes the end games are hard in Blindfold. I was talking about that too in the video. I just found like that's the, especially if you get into some sort of irrational end game, like one piece that you forgot moved on like move 7 could come back and, you know, it may not have moved since, but it could mess you up at the end. So I was trying to be careful. Like you guys saw my dilemma in trying to figure out whether the pawn was on A3 or A2 when he had played B4 on this move. I had a feeling it was on A3, but until I went through and actually remembered that he had played A3 to stop my bishop B4 check earlier, I wasn't going to take that pawn because it took me a couple moves to remember that point. So, you know, and after this it was just chasing his king and setting up the mate, or G8, just a matter of time. And mate. Okay, well I hope you guys enjoyed that game. Glad I could get a win against the engine blindfolded. I did notice there's a pretty big gap in skill between Computer3-HARD and Computer4 Impossible. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I might look for some more human opponents because I feel I could beat this engine pretty easily in Blindfold. I actually played it 2 times before this just to kind of get an idea. I tried to record those games. I won both of them, but my recordings were kind of getting messed up. So this one I think will record fine. But I think I'll try to find some human opponents in between Computer3-HARD and Computer4 Impossible, somewhere in between those strengths, because I think that would be maybe an opponent in like the, let's say, 1,700 to 2,000 range with their standard rating on chess.com. I think that would be an ideal opponent for me right now. So incidentally, if anyone is watching this video and would volunteer to play me blindfolded, you could either play blindfolded yourself or you could just have sight of the pieces. I think that's kind of what I was aiming for because people I play on chess.com have sight of the board and only I am blindfolded. So if you fall into that category, let's say 1,700 to 2,000 or so on chess.com, feel free to let me know and we'll set up a blindfold game and you'll get to be on video on my channel. So, all right, hope you guys enjoyed this one and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.